Hi friends, I hope everyone's doing well. I'm starting to revisit the compositions that I filmed in these two videos. I created simple design collages to show basic structure of those 17 compositions. Recently, I made a video showing how to elevate the design of the overlapping frame composition to make it more complex. I'll link the playlist for these videos in the description box below if you haven't watched them. Next on my list to revisit is this curvilinear composition. Here's the collage of the simple design from the previous video. I used circles to convey this composition style. For the revised collage, I'm using organic lines and shapes to create movement. I'm painting uneven light greenish blue diagonal lines, so I'm not starting with a blank page. Also note that this pattern will be considered a light value in the collage. I like to organize my paper selection by color before I start. It saves time looking for a certain paper while collaging. When I include transparent papers, then I separate the papers by transparent and non-transparent, like I did for this collage. As I mentioned, my design idea is not to use any circles like I did in the simple collage. I want to use shapes that look like uneven curved lines, like this mustard yellow paper made with absorbent ground. Also, I want to include shapes that look like domes. The elements will be placed so the movement will be in different directions. For example, look at the shape of the mustard yellow element, which starts at the top, then moves towards the left edge and down to the bottom. Some of the elements that will be placed below the red dome shape will start along the right edge of the mustard yellow element and curve away from it. As I start building the collage, I think about balancing some of the colors. Having the smaller element in the lower left in the same red paper as the one in the upper right adds color balance to the design. I'll use the same color again later. Due to the curvilinear shapes of the elements, I tend to get most of the main elements cut and placed before gluing each one. Out of all the different compositions, this one feels more like I'm working on a puzzle by fitting the curved shapes next to each other. Also deciding if shapes should be placed slightly under another one instead of placing the connecting edges next to each other, all the while making sure all three values are represented. If this is the first video of mine you're watching, I like to include all three values in one collage. The values don't need to be balanced, but all should be represented. I like the design better when the values are unbalanced. I'm at the point where I want to start gluing some of the elements because I like the placement. I'm using two types of adhesives for this collage. For non-transparent papers, I'm using matte Mod Podge because it has a strong hold. I like using matte adhesives when working in a sketchbook. The pages are less likely to stick together. I'll be using fluid matte medium to glue the transparent papers into place. This medium keeps the transparency of the papers better than Mod Podge. I'll be adding elements under this mustard yellow element, so I'm just applying glue to the very top section to keep it in place. I'll do the same thing with the light orange element. This will keep the two elements in place while I decide on the placement of the other ones that will be next to or under each one. One tool that I think is a must for collage artists is a smoothing tool. It smooths out any wrinkles and bubbles on the papers, especially when using liquid adhesives. I'm laying this blue transparent paper on top of the mustard yellow element to cut the right side, so there's enough excess paper to be placed under the inside edge of the mustard yellow element. Once the cut is made, then I position it slightly under the mustard yellow element so I can glue the right edge with fluid matte medium. It'll make it easier to cut the left edge when the right edge is secured in place. This step isn't necessary if you're collaging on a single piece of paper where you don't have to be concerned about the edge near the gutter of a sketchbook. You can see how the transparent papers melt into the surface once the fluid matte medium is applied to the rest of it. The uneven painted lines underneath are visible through the unpainted circle shapes. This layered look is why I love using transparent papers in my collages. I'm gluing down the mustard yellow element at this point because the other papers I'll be using won't be placed under it. When I'm not sure what my next steps are, it helps to take a grayscale image to check the values and their placement. The placement of the values in this collage at this stage are segmented. The 4 dark value elements are placed around the perimeter, mostly in the corners. The light and mid-tone values are grouped together. This isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's an observation, and knowing that decisions need to be made. Leave the collage as is or add more elements. To me, it looks unfinished, so I'm going to add a few more elements. Also, I need to consider where to add those elements. Should I keep the value placement as is or add a dark value in the light to mid-tone value area, or vice versa? I decided to add 2 more dark value elements and 1 more light value element. Also, I cut away the paper that extended past the edges. This step helps me to clearly see the area I'm working on as well. This is tissue paper painted with watercolor. I love the look of it, but it's like altered bleeding tissue paper. It isn't color fast, so the color bleeds. You need to be careful when gluing it to the surface. Make sure when you apply the glue on top to apply it only on the paper. Don't drag the brush off the surface or some of the color will be transferred to that area. I cut the top edge slightly longer so it'll sit on top of the edge of the mustard yellow element, creating a bit of transparency in that area. Before I add the last dark value element, I'm adding a light value transparent paper over the elements on the lower left side. It adds a subtle transparency that's visually pleasing to me. The final element will be cut from this dark blue plaid transparent paper. I didn't want another solid dark value element like the blue watercolor transparent paper. I want some of the light greenish blue stripes showing underneath it. You'll see me adding fluid matte medium to the small section along the top to secure the paper into place while cutting it to size. I'll add music as I finish this collage, and I'll come back to discuss it and the grayscale version. Like the other curvilinear composition collage, this one has a lot of movement with elements going in different directions. I love the layering of the transparent papers over the non-transparent papers and the striped ground layer. Another element of this design is the use of solid color paper along with pattern and textural papers. All of these elements give the design more depth, which elevates it. Let's look at the grayscale version. It leans towards dark value with some mid-tone and light values. Also, the values aren't segmented as before the addition of the 2 dark and 1 light value elements. I hope this video inspires you to work on the same composition using different designs. Both of these collages use curvilinear composition, but have very different designs. Thanks for watching. Let me know if you have any questions. Take care.